Syria's President Ahmed Sharaa has arrived in Washington for an official visit just days after the US formally revoked his status as a specially designated global terrorist. Well, the former Islamist militant will meet US President Donald Trump at the White House on Monday. That's just 11 months after his rebel alliance ousted the former President Bashar al-Assad. Well, let's speak to Dr. Hayan Dukan. He's a lecturer of politics and international relations at Teesside University. Welcome to BBC News. How significant is this meeting in your eyes? This is the first time, I understand, that a Syrian leader's been hosted in the White House for decades and decades.
Thank you so much for having me. Indeed, this is the first visit actually for a Syrian president to the US, and it's a major turning point in the history of Syrian-American relations and why the world is talking about many conflicts that are happening in multiple parts of the world. It's great to see that Syria is heading towards some sort of relative stability, and that Syria is moving now as well from what used to be Iranian slash Russian sphere of influence into the Western sphere of influence. And this what really marks this trip as significantly important. But we shouldn't as well forget the most important element of this is the fact that Syria will officially become partner in the war against ISIS. And this is what the president of Syria is going to sign. The agreement of Syria to become a strategic ally and partner in the battle against ISIS in Syria and Iraq.
Indeed. I mean, it's quite a turnaround, and I think it's useful to talk about some of the other partners that Syria has. I mean, countries like Russia, for example. How might that change the equation, the fact that the US and Syria are getting closer?
Yes. You could see that Syria is gradually moving towards the Western sphere of influence. And obviously, there are historical ties that connect Russia to Syria. We have seen recently Russia invite the Syrian president for a visit to Moscow, where they held talks about so many issues, including the fate of the Russian military bases in Syria, and including the possibility that Syria would provide weapons as well to the newly kind of established Syrian army, more or less. So while things are changing, but I would say that this change towards Russia will be incremental. And I can see that the Syrian leadership is probably feeling that the American administration could be unpredictable now, and they want to keep other channels of communication open with Russia and possibly China as well, on the long term.
Indeed. And of course, there's been tensions in Syria, of course, since Mr. al-Sharaa took over, particularly with certain communities like the Kurds and Christians. How do you think this meeting is going to impact their rights and their views in all of this?
Yeah. Obviously, the Syrian government is asking for full removal of sanctions that have been imposed on Syria over the past few decades, but the majority of the sanctions have been imposed during the course of the Syrian civil war. But we've been hearing actually this recently some members of the Congress who were saying that actually removing the sanctions need to be conditional. It need to be connected to how the Syrian government is going to treat its ethnic and religious minorities. And by this, they mean the Druze, they mean the Alawite, and they mean the Christian and the Druze in northeastern Syria. So I think this will be an important element of the conversations that will take in Washington, D.C. The U.S. will expect that the Syrian government will offer guarantees that it will respect the rights of the ethnic and religious minorities, and it will make sure that there is a full representation of these groups in any future governance in Syria.
Indeed, it's really interesting to look ahead to that meeting, isn't it? Loads of elements as to why that is a really significant meeting for President Trump later. That's Dr. Hayan Dukan. Thank you very much for joining us.